Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society bringing you our nightly update, and we have got some changes today. We have Tropical Storm Jerry is formerly Invest 95L. That has got tropical storm watches for portions of the islands. We still have our 10% chance out here over the Yucatan Peninsula. This is not a threat to U.S. interests. If it does develop, it has a very, very limited time. It's going to be really, really close to the Mexican mainland down here. So, folks in this portion of Mexico right here, are recommended to monitor the progress of that particular disturbance. Though it does not look to be overly impactful at all. If it does get developed, it'll be a tropical depression, a minimal tropical storm. It just does not have the time that it would need to really develop over the open waters. Taking a quick look at it on satellite, again, folks, this is not a U.S. interest, but it could grab a name. It's a 10% chance, but as you can see here, I'm going to do Earth Null real quick for everybody because I want to get this one over with so we can get to Jerry and Priscilla. But there is kind of a overall wave pocket right here. You can see, we'll go back to the main screen. You can see kind of like that whole area of rotation and spin. Definitely got Invest 90E. That's what this is right here. Now, if I run this forward, we're going to be using the GFS deterministic model on this as soon as I can get rid of the crayons. And I'm going to go forward 8 hours, 16 hours, and there you see it right there. We're at the 850 millibar level. This is approximately 1 mile above the ocean surface. If we come down to the surface, maybe, just maybe. And now if I go ahead one more click, it's gone. All right, so again, it is something that the folks here along the coast of Mexico, here in the Bay of Campeche, just please keep a watch on it. Regardless of development, heavy rainfall would definitely be anticipated. Now, let's get on to Jerry. Currently, Tropical Storm Jerry is located at 12.0 north, 46.4 degrees west, approximately 1,190 miles east-southeast of the northern Leeward Islands. Maximum sustained winds have increased to 50 miles an hour, and it is currently moving just a slight bit north of due west at 23 miles an hour, 280 degrees on the compass. 270 degrees is due west. So there is a small northerly component to its western motion, but not enough to give it a west-northwest heading. Minimum central pressure is down to 1,003 millibars. With this advisory, with the 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Advisory, we have watches issued. We've got watches issued for Barbuda, Anguilla, St. Barthélemy, St. Martin, and Saint Martin. So, as you can see here, there's some growing concerns. Interests elsewhere in the northern Leeward Islands and the British and U.S. Virgin Islands should monitor the progress of Jerry. I'm also going to include eastern portions of Puerto Rico on that as well, as far as monitoring the progress of Jerry. Scrolling down to our hazards affecting land. Wind, obviously. Tropical storm conditions are possible in the areas of where we have tropical storm watches. Rainfall. 2 to 4 inches of rain are expected across the Leeward Islands due to Jerry. This rainfall brings a risk of flash flooding, especially in areas of higher terrain. There's a lot of volcanic islands down there, folks. They're not flat by any means, and we could definitely see a risk of flash flooding. Surf. All right, here we go again. We've got a tropical system that's going to be out there. As this gets closer and closer, please, folks, stay out of the water. That's all I ask. No statistics, please. As we can see here with the forecast cone, it is forecast to become a hurricane and be within a close proximity here of the northern Leeward Islands, where we do have, we'll come here, and this way we can zoom in and see exactly where we have our watches. So these islands right here, and it is possible that this could shift a little bit further to the west if the models kind of call for that. Right now, the halves model is just steady, as we can see here with the spaghetti plots. The halves model is steady and has been steady, bringing this in to portions of the island. It just run after run after run after run. It is not giving this solution up. Where we have the majority of the guidance wants to turn this out early and not necessarily impact the islands, maybe a little close enough for some peripheral impacts, but direct impacts are definitely not off the table at this time. And like I said, halves has been absolutely consistent on this being an island's potential direct impact. And it should be noted that they're really, really intense too. And they have been over and over again. So we hope that everything else is what verifies and not necessarily halves or HMON. HMON brings it to, maybe a category 2 storm. Halves is full-blown major hurricane, and potentially Cat 4 at that, which would be absolutely terrible for our friends down there. Our key messages. And here we go. We got to treat this one seriously. If the National Hurricane Center is issuing key messages, there's a reason. Jerry is forecasted to strengthen and could bring tropical storm conditions to portions of the northern Leeward Islands, where tropical storm watches have been issued. And then our heavy rainfall risk here for portions of the Leeward Islands. And I am also going to include the Virgin Islands and maybe even Puerto Rico as well, especially if this thing starts to move northward. The trailing inflow could be just one storm right after another. It's not really going to move much left or right. Looking at our rainfall forecast, as you can see here from the Weather Prediction Center, green represents 2 to 4 inches in a wide area going all the way down to Dominica, including Guadalupe, Montserrat, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts, Nevis, Saba, Anguilla, St. Martin, the U.S., and the Virgin Islands right here as well. Now, Puerto Rico right now is in the 1 to 2 inch range. If this track were to shift south and to the west, that puts Puerto Rico in this green. So again, for the folks there, potentially into the eastern portions of Puerto Rico, please, please, please keep a very close watch on the progress of Jerry. Going into the forecaster's discussion, we are going to read quite a bit of this tonight. One thing, I'm not going to read much of the first paragraph, but we do have NOAA and Air Force hurricane hunters scheduled to investigate Jerry tomorrow. Now, being that we have such a potential threat level from Jerry, we are going to go ahead and read paragraphs 2 and 3. Jerry continues to move quickly westward at about 20 knots on the south-southwest side of a strong subtropical ridge. As soon as I'm done with this, we'll go back to Earth-Null and I'll show you exactly where that's at. The models insist that a turn to the west-northwest should occur soon, with a gradual reduction in forward speed expected over the next couple of days as the storm nears the southwestern side of the ridge. This motion should take the core of Jerry near or to the north of the northern Leeward Islands late Thursday and Friday. The best performing models show that the core of Jerry missing the northern Leeward Islands. However, There are some GFS, Euro, and Google DeepMind ensemble members that pass very near or over the islands. You also have halves. Therefore, interests there and in the Virgin Islands should monitor the system's progress, as details in the forward speed of the storm and strength of the ridge will be the main factors in determining how close Jerry gets to the islands. By the weekend, a turn to the north is forecast as the ridge weakens and shifts eastward due to a large-scale trough amplifying over the western Atlantic. The NHC track forecast remains on the fast side of the guidance through 72 hours, as models often have a slow bias in the tropical Atlantic. This prediction is slightly left of the previous one and in best agreement with the HCCA model. The storm is forecast to continue to strengthen during the next couple of days, as it remains in conducive environmental conditions of light winds aloft, abundant moisture, and over warm waters. Given the favorable conditions, the GFS and Euro-based ships models show that there is about 20% chance of rapid intensification occurring during the next day or two. The NHC forecast continues to show Jerry becoming a hurricane in a day or so, with the additional intensification expected after that. After the system passes by the islands, most of the models show some increase in shear, which should end the strengthening trend. The NHC forecast is slightly higher than the previous one and in general agreement with the HCCA and IVCN consensus. Based on the forecast and the uncertainties, tropical storm watches have been issued for portions of the northern Leeward Islands. If we take a look at our forecast intensity through 5 days, 100 miles an hour, that is a Category 2 storm. Knowing that today is Tuesday, we are looking at the 60 to 72 hour mark, being in close proximity to the islands. We are looking at a hurricane strength storm. 90 to 100 miles an hour. Now, again, we've only got a 20% chance of rapid intensification here. But if that 1 out of 5 chance happens to verify, these numbers are not going to be correct. Taking a look at our earliest reasonable arrival time of tropical storm force winds, Thursday morning. Our most likely arrival time of tropical storm force winds, potentially Thursday evening. Now, you will note that a lot of this area here associated with this track of winds does have quite a few more islands, including Barbados, within this little area. Well, let's take a look at the percentages. A lot of those areas are 5 to 10%. What we are looking for are areas within the light green, getting into the yellow and stuff like that. As you could see, some of these areas in the light green could potentially bring in some watches. Well, let's take a look at the wind speed probability. If we were to look, Bermuda, you are at an 18% chance of tropical storm force winds in 5 days. Okay? You're not out of the woods. So please keep a watch on it until we get a 100% on it. St. Thomas, we're looking at 15% tropical storm force winds. St. John, 17% tropical storm force winds. St. Croix, 11% tropical storm force winds. St. Martin, 36% tropical storm force winds. Saba, 26% tropical storm force winds. St. Eustace, 28%. St. Kitts and Nevis, 28%. Barbuda, this is where things get a little concerning. 52% tropical storm force winds. 22% of our 50 knot or 58 mile an hour winds. And a 10% chance of seeing hurricane force winds. Antigua, 24% tropical storm force winds. Guadeloupe, 27% tropical storm force winds. And then Dominica down here with a 15% tropical storm force winds. If I did not read off your location, you are likely under 10%. Vacay here, Puerto Rico, or Versailles there at 10%. So if I did not call off your location, right now, You are currently under 10% tropical storm force winds. Now, again, we will go over this graphic again tomorrow, and the text of this to see if anybody's percentages have gone up or have you come down. That's the question. So right now, being that Jerry just had its tropical storm watches issued, we are going to go through these until those watches are lifted. Taking a look at our forecast ensembles. Now here we have the European ensembles. We're out 7 days. If you'll note, the majority of the guidance and the highest probabilities would definitely turn this well early of the islands. This would be an optimal situation for our friends out there in the islands. But we also have the development of a non-tropical area of low pressure here off the east coast of the United States. And I say non-tropical because it is. It will start off as a non-tropical area of low pressure. However, if this storm, as you could see, we'll run it back 60, here we go, day 4, we're looking at the 11th at this point in time, so that would be what, Saturday, this weekend. As we run this forward, you will note that we don't have a lot of them exiting out to the northeast. This may have a tendency to want to linger off of the east coast. There's a problem with that. So again, we are going to come over here. We are going to come up to the 700 millibar level, and here we are approximately 10,000 feet above sea level. Taking a look at the winds, we have Jerry very easily able to determine exactly where Jerry is, and then we have our ridge of high pressure. This is what's causing Jerry to accelerate forward rapidly. Okay, now again, we are going to run this forward on the GFS. 1, 2, 3. This is 24 hours in advance. Now, if you notice, we have, it's now, instead of like south-southwest of the ridge, now we're kind of getting towards that southwesterly side of the ridge. We'll come forward another 24 hours. And as you could see at that point in time with the GFS, it is definitely beginning to round the western edge of the ridge here. But if I go forward another 24 hours, now we've cleared the islands, but look, here comes our area of low pressure right here. Now, this is forecast to kind of creep up this way. It could develop anywhere along the east coast here. Let me show you exactly what this does as far out as what Earth Null shows. It's this part right here. Okay, we've definitely got a developing non-tropical system at this point in time. Here we are out 96 hours. We're day 4. But here comes my big concern, and that is this wind flow. We already know through Imelda and Umberto that as they combined, did their little do-si-do dance out there in the western Atlantic and then moved towards Bermuda, there was an awful lot of coastal flooding and damage to the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Currently this week we are at what's known as King Tide, where the moon, the sun, and the earth all are in alignment that causes higher than normal tides throughout the course of the year. This onshore wind with persistence could cause some very significant coastal flooding for areas along the east coast north of where this low pressure area exists. Now, I'm going to run this forward as far as I can. And as you can see, we do have that area of low pressure off the east coast. I'll come up to the 500 millibar level to show you that it is non-tropical. It still has a frontal feature associated right here. That frontal feature means that it is not tropical. No tropical cyclone can have a frontal boundary tied to it or attached to it. But again, I'm going to come down to the surface. Look at those winds. Look at this persistent onshore flow. This is definitely going to cause major rip currents, significant coastal erosion, flash flooding there, or coastal flooding, especially around the time of high tide. Now, this doesn't go out far enough here on Earth Null, but if you notice, this really didn't move. So we're looking at multiple tide cycles potentially. And then on top of that, as Jerry begins to come northward, we could see some increase in wave activity there as well. So what we're going to do here on Earth Nulls, we're going to pull out the waves. Now, we've got it out here onto the ocean, and as you can see, the wave generation from Jerry is headed towards the east coast. You also have the area of low pressure that is off the east coast, causing even more wave activity. So it looks like this weekend, don't go in the water. Maybe if you're down here on the southeastern side of Florida, and obviously anywhere along into the Gulf of Mexico, things look good. You've got offshore winds. On the East Coast, though, that's a completely different story. And it looks like that you have these onshore propagating winds and onshore propagation of waves from all the way up here, New England, Cape Cod area, all the way back down to about West Palm Beach. And that also includes any Atlantic facing beach along the track here. So dangerous sea conditions are anticipated as we get into this weekend. Please exercise caution, folks. Because of this developing low pressure out there, I have concerns. Now, we're going to compare the Euro with the GFS. The GFS is calling for something almost identical to what the Euro is calling for, which is once we get out to day 7, if we have, collaboration and coherence between the models, that leads to a little bit extra confidence. It doesn't mean that it's a guarantee, but it certainly leads to something of higher confidence than it would be if they didn't agree. So again, we have this area here. A couple of the members right here get it a little close to the islands where Jerry is concerned. But again, the majority of the guidance or probability turns it just prior to getting there. And then we have Bermuda out here. Here's the thing. If Jerry were to hit the islands directly, then that puts it on a different angle for Bermuda. So, folks, there in Bermuda, if Jerry turns prior to the islands, that may keep you on the safe side. If Jerry goes through the islands, then you may be looking at another very, very close call. Taking a look and comparing the our legacy models, our physics-based models and numerical models with our AI models. Now, the Euro AI does not have much for intensity on Jerry. We don't see hardly anything getting below the 980 millibars. Just a couple little spots, one here, one there, of one ensemble apiece. It's not much. The AI does agree here on the potential of, it lingering with this nor'easter type low. And then if it hangs out there, it could gain some subtropical, maybe tropical characteristics if it hangs out. If it's up here, probably not. If it's down here, maybe. The water temperatures are completely different. Um, and if it sits over the Gulf Stream, the chances of it being able to potentially shed its frontal features are not high, but they're not zero either. Now, if we compare all this to the Google DeepMind, we have Jerry here, and the DeepMind has definitely shifted a little bit more to the west today. Yesterday, we only had just a few models. Today, we've got quite a few more models. And each one of these lines represents 2% probability. The Google DeepMind is all probability, strictly probability. There are 50 ensemble members. Each of them are designated 2% chance. And as you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then a ton of them getting up here towards Antigua and Barbuda. Barbuda is this one, Antigua's here. And then Anguilla up here. So it's becoming very concerning. This right here, this line that I have highlighted in blue, I'll zoom out just a little bit. This is the ensemble mean. This is the average of all 50 ensemble members together. And as you can see, I'll come back down here and try to get it. The ensemble mean does get a little uncomfortably close. So this is definitely shifted to the left this afternoon. So folks there in the islands, please take this very seriously. You would need to have all preparations completed, I would say by noon on Thursday, but there's still some uncertainty in the speed and the track. So please check back with your official sources, and you guys can use the database tied to our Facebook page here. Scroll right down here to North America, and you will find your island or some areas there very, very close. So please, folks, don't let your guard down on this one. We might be in October, but season isn't over. All right, now we're going to take a look at our deterministic models. What we have here is the Euro on the left and the GFS on the right. This represents our 850 millibar cyclonic vorticity. This measures areas of rotation or spin approximately 1 mile above the ocean surface. As I run this forward, we can very clearly see where Jerry is. We're going to get here to about the 54-hour mark. And as you can see, the Euro is just a little bit ahead of what the GFS is. And this is the 12Z runs for the GFS and the Euro, in case anybody wants to know for timing discrepancies. Now, as I continue to run this forward, we will note that here comes that area of low pressure off of the East Coast. And as we continue to run this forward, here we are with day 5. We can definitely see that there is some frontal features associated with this area off the East Coast. One thing that I do need to point out is, yes, we have this low pressure here. You have the frontal feature and the boundary here that ties to this low pressure. You have Jerry working its way towards that, but see this? This could be a squall line for our friends out here into the Bahamas. It's not a guarantee, but it could be. And as we can see here with the low, again, we'll show it on the GFS. Very, very similar to what we have on the Euro. Jerry heading up this way. And then again, this tail right there could lead to some energetic storms for our friends here in the Bahamas. That is possible. Now, we are going to run this forward again, just a little bit forward, and now we're going to get out to day 7. If you notice here in day 7, that nor'easter, it's still there. Hasn't gone anywhere. The thing about the GFS is located a little bit further offshore and a little bit further to the north. Now that makes a big difference because all of our onshore flow would be this way, and then really getting up towards the Boston area, coastal Massachusetts, maybe even the coastal Maine as well. We would have offshore winds down here south of North Carolina. If we look at the other way, this one with the Euro drives a lot of that onshore wind into areas of, say, Chesapeake Bay, coastal Virginia, getting into Delaware, Maryland, and coastal New Jersey, maybe Long Island. That would be a lot of that persistent onshore flow. And the problem is that when you have the winds blowing up against your coastline like that persistently over multiple tide cycles, the tide's going to come up. The winds are going to be pushing on the tide. How's the tide going to go back out? Now, granted, it's going to go down a little bit, but not all of that is going to leave because the wind is continuously pushing it up on the land and trying to push it up towards the shore. And then we go through one tide cycle, 2, 3, 4, 5. See where I'm going with this? All right, now we're going to run this out to day 10 because if you notice, there are some disagreements on what the GFS and the Euro calls for. The Euro calls for that area of low pressure to be captured by this frontal feature right here. The other one, the GFS, does not and pushes it down this way. We still may have to monitor that if that is what plays out to be. Again, whether it's tropical or not, it is definitely too early to make that determination. But now that we know where our quote-unquote seeds are, where our low pressure areas are, now we will compare that with our humidity. Again, as always, we have our Euro on the left and our GFS on the right. The top two graphics represent the 500 millibar level, which is about 18,000 feet above the ocean surface. On the bottom two graphics is representative of the 700 millibar level, which is about 10,000 feet above the ocean surface. So we're trying to determine what kind of moisture level is in those two areas of the atmosphere because that has a lot to do with tropical cyclone development, enhancement, intensification, weakening. If you have a layer of dry air that is about 2-3 miles above the ocean surface, you're not going to get a lot of really tall thunderstorms to being able to crack through that dry air because all of the moisture that was being lifted from the ocean surface evaporates. Okay, so we are going to run this forward and we will note there comes that frontal boundary. We're going to get it to day 3. We're seeing some of that increase in moisture here off of the east coast of Florida, maybe getting up towards the Bahamas, especially on the GFS. By the time that we get out to day 4, we note that through our previous model that we are starting to get that area of low pressure beginning to develop. As I run this forward, you will see on the southern side of this area of low pressure, we are here at day 5. You look at this dry air that is being slung down on the back side of this low pressure. Now, the stronger that low pressure is, the more this will kind of move down to the south and to the east. We could see it very clearly on both models. Now, there is a little bit of, disagreement as far as some of the drier air getting out here. As you can see, we have that trough here. And then what would be, or formerly Jerry, we have Jerry right here. But then if you notice, we don't really have a lot right here. So there is a little bit of difference between the two models. Now, let's erase that, and then we're going to come forward another 2 days to get to day 7. Now, shoot. All right. Now, by the time we get to day 7, as you can see, again, we have that dry air sitting here, trough in this region. Trough in this region right here, low pressure, dry air filtering in. But there's something else that and there's also a high pressure right here, which is helping to funnel that air this way. Clockwise around a high pressure in the northern hemisphere, counterclockwise around a low pressure. Now, I'm going to run this forward. Now, we're here at day 7. We obviously knew that the GFS wanted to take that nor'easter style low pressure system and push it southward. The Euro wants to drag it off to the northeast. So we know we're going to see some differences here. But look at that. Look at that introduction of a new plunge of dry air coming down. This would be phenomenal because here we're getting out to October the 17th on these models. Really, right there. That's how you tell your times on any of these models. We're 8 a.m. here on the 17th. Eastern time, that is. Now, that amount of dry air is enormous, and this may help to temper anything that would try to get itself going out here into the Caribbean. Now, the GFS shows maybe a little bit of a hint area here into the southern Gulf. The Euro, absolutely not. So again, there are some differences. They certainly want to stay together through day 7 for the most part, but then after that, depending on exactly what this other area of low pressure does, and the intensity of some frontal boundaries coming off or through the North American continent, there's certainly some differences there. But if the GFS happens to be the one that verifies, it's dragging a lot of this dry air this way. Now, I'm going to take the GFS out further, and it's into La La Land, but I just wanted to kind of highlight that if that low pressure were to verify and behave in that general manner, look what happens with that dry air. We really start to place a lot of it down into the Caribbean. Now, we're not saying that that is going to hold, but that would certainly inhibit any type of tropical cyclone development, at least through the first 2 weeks of October, and maybe even getting into a good portion of week 3. Now, our wind shear, this is going to be critical because this is what is forecast to potentially hamper, the rapid intensification possibilities of Jerry. So again, you're on the left, GFS on the right. This is representative of the 850 millibar level, which is about 5,000 feet above the ocean surface, all the way up to the 200 millibar level, which is about 40,000 feet above the ocean surface. So a huge gap of the atmosphere. As we run this forward, we're going to get to day 2, and this is where things become questionable, especially for Jerry. You see this wind right here? Same thing on the Euro and the GFS. This shear, maybe. It could just keep it from going bonkers. That's all. I mean, we're still forecast to be looking at a hurricane, but from the National Hurricane Center. But if that shear component can really kick in, as you can see here with the Euro at 1,002 millibars, that's a tropical storm. Take that all day long. Still could see the opportunity for risks of flash flooding due to excessive rainfall, but we wouldn't see potentially very, very strong winds at that point in time. Now, I'm going to run this out and we're going to get this to day 4 at this point in time. Now, we can see where our little area of low pressure, you've got this trough like this. That area of low pressure is forming in this kink right here. Again, trough like this with that area of low pressure trying to develop in that kink right there. So as I run this forward, that's where we're going to have to watch. So as we run it forward, you can see that that low pressure does develop here on the euro. 992 millibars. So it could be a rather potent low pressure as far as the euro is concerned. GFS also has the potential for some potency on that. Now, as we get out to day 7, we will note that an area of high pressure is starting to build in over the south central area of the United States. Here on the euro, they've got it over southern Texas. Here on the GFS, maybe eastern Texas. So they're not off by a lot. High pressure ridge set in place that would not, even if anything were to try to develop down here, this high pressure right here is a deflecting. You are not, thou shalt not pass. No storms coming through that. All right, so even if something were to develop down here into the Western Caribbean, if that high pressure remains in place, ain't nothing coming. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And as you can see with the GFS, we have a trough right there. With the euro, we have a trough right there. So, on the south side of the trough, the winds go like this. On the north side of the trough, the winds are going like this. Very clearly shown here on the GFS. One running this way, one running that way. The kind of concern is this area right here. This is a upper level anticyclone, high pressure. And you can also kind of see a little bit of a hint of it right here as well. We'll have to watch for it. I know we're out 7 days. We don't have anything on that, but it's just an area to where persistent shower and thunderstorm activity may exist. Now, if we run this out getting towards day 10, this is where, again, they diverge greatly, and we already knew this from the previous model. Here, we have a high pressure right here. It's kind of shaped like that. Nothing's coming through this. Thou shalt not pass. You don't have anything here. Nothing. If something were to get down there where the euro is concerned, and we don't see that, but you're just leading to lower shear values that could promote shower and thunderstorm activity. And there's a reason. Today's Tuesday. I've got your Global Tropics Hazards Outlook that just came out from the Climate Prediction Center this afternoon. There's a reason why I'm telling you all this. But first, we're going to take a look at our MJO. And our MJO amplification in our area, sitting in phase 1. We don't like phase 1. Phase 1 is literally the no-no phase. I would rather it be in phase 4 or phase 5 right now. The Global Tropics Hazards Outlook. This is fresh from this afternoon. As you can remember, our big question was, how was week 3 going to transfer up to week 2? Well, damn. We couldn't have made it any much worse than what it is already. Though, look here. This is a very, very high chance of tropical cyclone potential. Notice, greater than 60% chance of development here into the Eastern Pacific. This is going to lead for a big-time threat for, regardless of development, heavy, heavy, heavy rainfall over a lot of this region. You could see it associated here with a big time bullseye over areas of Nicaragua, Honduras, San Salvador, uh, El Salvador, getting into Guatemala, Belize, maybe the southern part of the Yucatan, maybe the extreme eastern portions of mainland Mexico, getting towards the Isthmus of Tehuantepec as well. It also leaves us with a 40 to 59% chance of tropical cyclone development here into the Western Caribbean. And unfortunately, for week 3, we have a higher area of probability here than we do here. The Eastern Pacific is kind of pressed back up towards Central America, as to where the Western Caribbean side of the Central American Gyre expands all the way out with that 40 to 59% chance of development, all the way to the Caymans and maybe the Isle of Youth on the southern side there of Cuba. So again, hurricane season's not over. I was kind of hoping a few days ago that we may see some of these frontal boundaries dig really, really deep. But unfortunately, the models have kind of backed off of that, and we don't see clearance of the Caymans and Jamaica to where it is stabilized and held. Now, if you also notice, we've got the southern hemisphere beginning to kick up in week 2 here. That'll be me. I'll be out there watching all that. It spins the other way, so I'm kind of fascinated by that. And week 3 getting in towards the Bay of Bengal here. This is very concerning because there's a lot of low-lying areas along the Bay of Bengal, and this is the most dangerous storm surge area in the entire world, right here in the northern portions of the Bay of Bengal. And, I'll obviously be watching all of it. All right, now, I am going to... yes, Sean, Jerry's definitely going to be a hurricane, forecasted there with the National Hurricane Center. I'm going to check for questions. Yeah, no, Jonathan had he did send me a post with people hyping up Jerry, saying that there was going to be a landfall with Jerry in like New Jersey or something. Tore into that guy real quick. Tagged him in it too. They didn't respond. I wonder why. Very dry weekend, dropping temps, nights in the 60s. Yes, Betty, we do have a frontal boundary coming. Unfortunately for y'all down there, dear, y'all are only going to get into the mid to upper 60s for the lows. I'll turn the fan on up here in Tally, and we'll see if we can't blow those mid to lower 50s that we get up here for our lows. See if we can't get it down there a little further to the south. So, jumping out into the Eastern Pacific, we now have Invest 90E. We discussed this earlier there on Earth Null in correlation with our 1010 out here over the Yucatan Peninsula for the Atlantic Basin. That currently has a 40% chance of development over the next 48 hours and an 80% chance of development over the next 7 days. All folks along the southern side of Mexico, southern coastline, southwestern side, keep a very close watch on Invest 90E. Regardless whether it makes direct impact or not, this is uncomfortably close to the coastline, which could lead that backside inflow, creating a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity and potential for flash flooding along the southern coast of Mexico. We have Tropical Storm Octave. This is going to be, we're only going to talk about this for about another 24, 36, maybe 48 hours. And then that's toast. It's really, really getting torn apart. We'll look at it on satellite here in a second. And then we have Hurricane Priscilla. Hurricane Priscilla is almost 2 major hurricane status. If we take a look at the satellite view, you can definitely see why. There is an eye feature beginning to show up on visible satellite, although it is not cleared out yet. It is still clouded, though it does have a very dense central core. And then this thing right here is octave. And octave is beginning, as you can see with the low level swirl right there, and its convection well set off to the south and west. You are getting the outflow from Priscilla, creating a shear component for octave. So octave's not a threat by any stage of the game. But Invest 90E could very well be a threat. So let's get into the particulars on Priscilla. Currently located at 19.9 north, 110.8 west. We are approximately 215 miles south-southwest of the southern tip of the Baja Peninsula. Maximum sustained winds, 110 miles an hour. Currently moving west-northwest at 9 miles an hour with a minimum central pressure of 958 millibars. We do have a tropical storm watch in effect for portions of the Baja Peninsula. And other areas outside of the watch area there on the Baja Peninsula, monitor the progress. Rainfall, well, our hazards affecting land, wind, we know. We've got tropical storm watches. Tropical storm conditions are obviously possible. Rainfall. This is where things get a little interesting. From today into Wednesday, 1 to 2 inches of rain are expected in southern Baja California Sur, with local storm totals up to 4 inches as the outer banks of Priscilla reach the area. This rainfall could bring the risk of flash flooding, especially in areas of higher terrain. Moisture from Priscilla should bring 1 to 2 inches of rain, with local amounts of 4 inches to portions of west central Mexico, which could lead to flash flooding with the area's terrain. From late this week into this weekend, moisture from Priscilla leads to heavy rainfall and a flash flood risk over portions of the U.S. desert southwest. We have been mentioning this now for a couple days. It's definitely there. Surf, you've got a strong category 2 off the coast. Stay out of the water. Real simple. The forecast cone, as you can see here, maintaining hurricane intensity through Wednesday evening. By Thursday morning, starting to weaken down to a tropical storm. We do not have major hurricane icon on here, so we're hoping that this is its maximum. Tropical storm watches here on the southwestern side of the Baja Peninsula, and then degrading into a remnant low here Saturday morning at 10 a.m. The forecast spaghetti plots, very tight clustering, very, very confident forecast track. The moisture, regardless of where the low level center, no matter what happens to the low level center, it's not going to make a difference. The rain is coming, especially for folks in Arizona. The rain is coming. We have key messages. Now, we've pretty much gone over most of these with our hazards affecting land. Obviously, our tropical storm conditions there in the areas of our watch. Heavy rainfall associated, we've already gone over that. And then number 3, keep out of the water. It's just really simple. I mean, if you've got a hurricane off your coast, especially one that's 110 miles an hour and it's only a couple hundred miles away, it shouldn't necessarily need to be said, but stay out of the water. If we look at the Hurricane Priscilla rainfall forecast from the Weather Prediction Center, getting down here into the Baja, 1 to 2 inches. We've already gone over this. Maybe upwards to 4 inches. We don't see any of that out here off into the west central portions of Mexico. I'm hoping that this graphic updates and gives us a little bit better idea, because we're not using that. We're going to come over here and use the NOAA blend of models. and the WPC. We've got the Weather Prediction Center's official forecast on the left. The NOAA blend of models, which takes everything and just kind of compiles it together and gives us an average of all that, is located on the right. Now here we are, 60, 72 hours. Here comes the rain. And I said, here comes the rain. We're talking about potentially 3 inches in areas around Flagstaff. That, with the elevated terrain, hydrophobic soils due to the fact that you are in a desert, this could certainly lead to areas of flash flooding and even getting up into southern portions of Utah and southwestern Colorado as well, because this 2 inches in these little spots of higher rainfall amounts in higher areas of terrain, tropical downpours and mountains don't mix. We learned that lesson greatly with Helene. They didn't mix prior to that, but everybody should know from Helene. Now, granted, we don't have, 10, 12, 15, 20, 30 inches of rain. We're just looking at 3. But if we get a thunderstorm that drops a lot of rain really, really fast, it's not going to have any, it's certainly not going to absorb into the ground real quick. And if I run this out and we get it to day 7, what's that? Round 2, Invest 90E, the moisture flow from that. And then I'll continue to run this forward and we'll take it out to day 10 on the NOAA blend of models. The WPC forecast ends at 7 days. Look at day 10. You're talking about potentially 4.5 inches in Phoenix? Really? Now, I know that there is a team member on the Tropical Weather Threat Society team that is probably excited as all could get out because she is originally from Florida, lives in Arizona, and misses the thunderstorms greatly. But, Jess, no, not this one. Not this time around. This could lead to some significant flash flooding. Folks out here, do not drive through flooded roadways. Let me repeat that again. Do not drive through flooded roadways. All right, now we are going to get into our forecaster's discussion. We're not going to read a lot of this, but we are going to get down here to, we're actually going to read from that point right there. Enhanced moisture is likely to be transported northward over portions of the southwestern U.S. late this week, resulting in the potential for heavy rainfall. The hurricane has jogged towards the west-northwest over the past 6 hours, and the initial motion estimate is 295 degrees at 8 knots. A general northwestern motion is expected through Thursday as Priscilla moves around the southwestern periphery of a mid-level ridge over northern Mexico. Priscilla is forecast to move parallel to, but remain offshore of the southern Baja California Peninsula through Thursday. By Thursday night, an amplifying trough off of the U.S. West Coast is forecast to erode the steering ridge north of Priscilla. The weakness in the ridge should induce a northward turn later this week into this weekend. The track models are still in fairly good agreement through about 60 hours, but there are still some speed differences in the guidance after that time, as Priscilla weakens to a remnant low. The new NHC track forecast is slightly to the left of the previous one through 36 hours, mainly due to the farther west initial position. Thereafter, the new official forecast is on top of the previous one and lies between the latest GFEX and HFIP corrected consensus, which is the HCCA. This is the Hurricane. HFIP stands for Hurricane Forecast Improvement Project. That was passed many, many years ago. And boy, that's how we got halves. That's how we've gotten so much better over the last 10 plus years from the Hurricane Forecast Improvement Project. It's been an amazing thing. Now, if we look here, the initialization and the next 12 hours looking at around 110 miles an hour. Could this achieve Category 3? Absolutely. Will it? Maybe, maybe not. And then we're starting that weakening trend, maintaining hurricane intensity through the next 36 hours, then weakening to a tropical storm by the time we get to 48 hours. Then 96 hours, it's pretty much gone. 120 hours, it's totally dissipated at this point in time. But that's the surface circulation. That has nothing to do with the moisture that's up above it. That's going to continue to move towards U.S. interests. Now, real quick, I've got to run over Octave here real fast. We are going to try to do this as quickly as possible. Octave is currently located at 115, listen to me, 15.3 north, 118.8 west. Maximum sustained winds of 45 miles an hour, moving east-southeast at 8 miles an hour, with a minimum central pressure of 1,000 millibars. There are no coastal watches of warnings in effect. There will never be watches of warnings in effect. No hazards affecting land. Priscilla's in the way. There will never be hazards affecting land. If we take a look at the forecast cone, it is forecast to be a tropical depression sometime tomorrow night, and then done for there sometime on Thursday. Forecasters discussion, as you can see here, 24 hours still maintaining the hurricane strength. Tropical depression in 38, a very weak tropical depression in 48, or 36 hours. I said 38. Lord have mercy. I'm reading ahead of myself. 36 hours at 35 miles an hour. 48 hours, a weaker tropical depression, and then by 60 hours, completely gone. So that's what we're looking at. Looking at our forecast ensembles. This again is the Euro legacy. As you can see, we've got Priscilla moving up and in. We've got Invest 90E potentially coming up, moving up and in. And then some of that moisture from remnant, if there's anything left, I doubt it, but there could be, could get tied up into 90E as well. So, more rain is basically what we're getting at here for the desert Southwest. Comparing that to the GEFS. Now the GEFS, as you can see, Priscilla up and in, Octave up and done, and then Invest 90E coming out and then shooting straight for the Baja. We don't have a lot of intensity on it, but we don't have a closed low yet either. So, folks down here into the Baja, it's October. I shouldn't have to tell y'all. It's y'all's time of the season for bendbacks and impacts. If we compare that to the Euro AI, as you can see, Octave done, Priscilla in, 90E right on the heels of Priscilla. Now, I'm going to jump back to the deep mind, and we are going to roll this forward. There is our little area of interest that we want to talk about right there. That's what the Google DeepMind is calling for. Now again, it's not a lot of intensity, but you don't need a lot of intensity to bring rain. We've all seen rain without a name, and that is the potential for this overall system at this time. We still have a 40% chance of development over the next 48 hours. We do not have a solid center with this. Forecast on Invest 90E is likely to change. All right, now jumping out to the Western Pacific. I told y'all, you take a look at Typhoon Hai Long. I told you that thing was going to go absolutely bonkers, and it's... You tell me. This thing is crazy. It is starting to weaken a little bit. You can see a little bit of some of that shear impacting there on the western side, trying to erode the western flank of this, and you're starting to get a little bit of extra central dense overcast shifted to the right. The central dense overcast is this large area of showers and thunderstorms in and around the center, like that big canopy of rain. You've got a lot more on the right side than you do on the left side. So this is asymmetry starting to develop with the storm. And it will eventually succumb to some shear. But right now, it is 120 knots, category 4. It is forecast to potentially strengthen a little bit to maybe 125 knots. And then, as it turns out into the open waters of the Atlantic, it is forecast to weaken. I have seen some models that bring the remnants of this into the Bering Straits through instead of trying to explain it all, I'll just show it to you. Hi long. There we go. This is the Google DeepMind, by the way, breaking all of the things down, getting into all of your pressures down here. Everything is in the pink, obviously, because it's a category 4 right now. And as you can see, kind of coming up through maybe the Aleutian Islands and then getting up here towards the Bering Straits. So, folks in Alaska, don't think you're going to get any kind of tropical warning, but you could see a storm for sure. And if folks want to see that on Google DeepMind with Jerry, only one brings it to 937, and then 956, 980, 979, 969, 974. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gets it to 980 or below. 12%. That's a good thing. I don't want to see those numbers go up any higher. All right, folks, that is about all that I have here tonight. Probably earthquake related. What the hell happened? No global tsunami in effect. Alert 6.8 magnitude in Papua New Guinea today did not trigger a warning. Major widespread warnings were issued in late July 2025 for the Pacific. Yes, off of Russia. There have been a lot of aftershocks. You also had one in a 6.9 in the Philippines near Cebu City. That caused some significant problems for those folks there. And we've seen quite a few aftershocks. One thing that I would like to point out, if we were to ever have a major earthquake or anything like that that could potentially issue a tsunami watch warning, there will always be this little green flashing icon and header here on the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. So if there was something currently active out there as far as tsunami or earthquake, and it doesn't matter, it could be in the southern hemisphere, it could be in the northern hemisphere, they don't care. They're going to they're definitely going to inform folks of that. So Joint Typhoon Warning Center can be quite assisting with the tsunami thing and the earthquake. Right now we're good, but there has been just an unbelievable amount of aftershocks off the Kamacha Peninsula here with Russia, with that one that was like 8 point something earlier this season that Jonathan had mentioned. All right, everybody, that's all I have. Yes, ma'am, you have a great night, Sammy and Betty. I am going to go ahead and sign off here tonight. So we will be back tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, here on Facebook and YouTube. If I start to see Jerry do unmentionable things and start to get maybe leaning more towards the have solution than some of the other solutions, and we start to get real, we really start to get some intensity to build up, I'll increase the live streams for our friends out here into the islands. I'll at least try to go live twice a day. just to cover it, just to make sure. If I can, if my schedule will allow me to pull 3 times, I will do that too. Because the folks out there, you deserve the same amount of coverage and respect as our American friends have. So, I'm going to be very, very closely monitoring this and the team, and we may kick up the live streams for about 48 hours just to make sure that everybody stays informed. And please, folks, follow the official sources. You can come right here to the database tied to the page, come right to the North America tab, follow your official sources. Okay? Please. I'm begging y'all. I just want to get through this season with no impact. All right, everybody. That's it for me tonight. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody. Bye for now.